PWF Empire is live. Thank you all for tuning in tonight to this very special night and momentous night in WWE history because everything has changed and things are going to be very different from this point on. First and foremost, as Cass has reminded us every friggin' chance he's gotten, or at least he wanted it to be true, but tonight it actually is. Hashtag SmackDown matters. The reason being is because WWE has instituted a brand extension where SmackDown will have its own unique roster, as will Monday Night Raw. And you just saw with that picture that was up on the screen, SmackDown has the current WWE champion Dean Ambrose, while the first overall pick of the draft was Seth Rollins. We'll be getting down to the nitty-gritty, talking about these draft picks tonight on the show. Who are we? I am Jay. I also have Lucas, Evan, and Steven on the panel tonight. This was the first edition of SmackDown Live. Many, many more to come. So, yeah, how are you guys feeling tonight?
I'm feeling like, has everything changed?
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
We're not going to get into the point where it's good change or bad change, but by the definition of what change is, things have changed. Two separate rosters, that's change.
Yeah, I mean, technically it is two separate rosters, but I have this nagging feeling like the guys are all segregated by the people they normally associate with. I don't know if that's just an impression that I'm getting, but I think it's because you got Cena and Orton on SmackDown, and I'm just thinking that's really overwhelming for one brand to have both of those guys on 2 hours. And you got Reigns and Rollins on Raw.
Don't forget Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are both on Raw as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
but, yeah. What, did you just notice that too?
Yeah.
And Stephanie and Seth Rollins apparently are teamed up again. I thought we were done with that authority crap. So there were
They're not necessarily teamed up again. It's just that they have that connection, and Stephanie wanted Seth Rollins to
Well, it's
be
called
WWE
continuity.
champion.
That's fine, and I love continuity, so I'm not going to knock that, but I don't know. I'm not here to knock it. I mean, I wasn't appalled in any of the draft picks. I'm glad that Cena is on SmackDown. I just feel like Raw got a lot of shit that SmackDown didn't get, and this is one of the reasons why. Go ahead.
I actually think SmackDown looks like the better brand right now. I'm on Team SmackDown.
I don't know which one is the better brand, but I do know that Raw got quite a lot of talent there, whereas SmackDown, I can only name a handful of guys who I actually
really.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Cena,
go
Orton,
down the list.
Bryan.
A quick rundown of
Bryan doesn't really
the draft picks so far. We have Seth Rollins, Charlotte, Finn. This is on Monday Night Raw. Seth, Charlotte, Finn Bálor. Big pick there. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, New Day, Sami Zayn, Sasha Banks, Chris Jericho, Rusev, Kevin Owens, Enzo Big Cass, Gallows and Anderson, Big Show, Nia Jax, Neville, Cesaro, Sheamus. Those were the picks that were made on the main show. Then we still have picks, as we're speaking, being made on the network. Over on SmackDown, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, John Cena, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, Becky Lynch, The Miz, Baron Corbin, American Alpha, Dolph Ziggler, Natalya, and Alberto Del Rio.
See, I definitely like the first half of those names for SmackDown. The core four: Styles, Cena, Orton, and Ambrose. I mean, those names right there stand out alone. I think that's enough star power for SmackDown. I look at Raw, and all the names you just mentioned, I feel like it's the exact same shit Raw has been getting. I feel like nothing has changed for Raw. They basically have the same guys, and I don't see any interest. I don't see the appeal there for Raw because, like Steven mentioned it earlier, everybody that is on Raw is pretty much already associated with each other. I don't know. I feel like SmackDown...
Let me ask you a question. Do you even watch SmackDown?
What this has to do with what's going on now, not anything that has to do with the
past.
past.
A reason why I'm asking you that question, because it's interesting that you say nothing has changed for Monday Night Raw. That's because you watch Monday Night Raw.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Watch SmackDown.
Well, things have changed for SmackDown because now John Cena will be on SmackDown.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like we get Cena every week on SmackDown, or we get
You
all
wouldn't
these.
know one way or another.
I know for a fact Cena's never going to make an appearance on SmackDown in the
If
last 5
Cena
years.
was on SmackDown, I would be watching it because that would mean that they actually care about SmackDown. Now that he's on there, I feel comfortable investing my time because I know that if it's good enough for Cena, then they're going to try a little bit with it. So.
See, that's a difficult position to put yourself in because John Cena, not necessarily saying that he's on his way out of WWE, but his schedule has decreased dramatically. And they actually talked about it and they incorporated into the storylines as it related to the draft, and that could be a reason why he went as low as he did in the draft, because John Cena, he has so many other engagements outside of WWE, and we're seeing less and less of John Cena.
Yeah, that was
these
cool.
days.
I like how they brought up reality into that with John Cena, and it made sense too. I figured he was probably going to be their first pick for either Raw or SmackDown, and then they explained it pretty well. I still thought they should have gone ahead and done it anyway, give Cena the #1 overall pick for SmackDown, but they didn't, but the explanation made up for it. So I like that aspect about it, but I just think SmackDown is on point right now.
I think this draft is very solid. This was probably the best WWE draft that I can remember, and I watched all the other ones too. So I'm really impressed with WWE's ability to make it feel authentic. As a sports fan, someone who watches the NFL and NBA draft, I really like the authenticity of this draft. I like that Raw went for Seth Rollins first because he's basically the living, breathing epitome of what the top-level guy should be right now. And then you have Ambrose as a counter guy on SmackDown. And also SmackDown being smart enough to draft the WWE champion. You know, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I also liked at one point when Rusev was drafted to Raw, and then immediately SmackDown drafted The Miz because they wanted to at least have the Intercontinental title. They knew that now that Raw had the U.S. title, they were like, well, we got to make sure we match that with the Intercontinental title. So it felt like a lot of these picks were calculated, thought out. It really gave me a feeling of authenticity. On a scripted program, to feel like something comes across that way is really impressive. And also, not only that, but it's really important to have that be a factor. So I think this draft went
I
really
should stop
well.
right here and say kudos to the WWE creative team from the perspective of what you're talking about right now, Evan, because it's difficult to do something like that knowing that it's scripted. Like, it may seem easy, oh, it's scripted, but you have to kind of have like the foresight to know, okay, what's the ramifications of us making this pick right here, and how is that going to matter a few picks down the line? And you have to carefully construct the draft beforehand to know all of that kind of stuff. So if it did have that legit feel to you, criticize when necessary, give credit where credit is due. That's my thing. So I have to, take a moment to pause and say, good on WWE for accomplishing.
I think I know why the draft is bothering me. Now that I thought about it, it's not purely because things are staying the same. It's because I had an expectation of SmackDown that was not exactly met, and I had this expectation for two reasons. And the expectation is that SmackDown would be the land of opportunity, the more fresh, the younger brand, right? And I had that expectation because that's how SmackDown has been in the past when the brand split happened. And also that's how Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon have been pitching it. So I thought that we would get a lot of the younger guys. But really, we have a lot of established people on SmackDown. We didn't get on SmackDown Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Finn Bálor. I mean, to me, it's like I was looking forward to seeing SmackDown establish itself as almost an alternative to Raw, and now I just feel like Raw has split in half, and now SmackDown is just going to be Raw except on Tuesdays. And the main thing also that disappointed me was that they didn't really get any good NXT picks. Now I know American Alpha is great, but they're a tag team. I'm talking about like singles picks. They didn't take Samoa Joe, and they still can because it's still going on. So I'm hoping that'll happen. I'm hoping they take Samoa Joe or Shinsuke Nakamura, because if they don't get a huge new guy with a lot of potential, I just feel like, what am I looking forward to on SmackDown? Who am I going to look forward to see rise in the ranks on SmackDown?
And they've also given away
your vision of WWE where you have SmackDown as the alternative to Monday Night Raw, what would Raw have been?
I don't know what Raw would have been. I guess I would expect Raw would sort of carry on like it usually does, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in a way it is, because we're kind of bored with Raw every week, but it's more to do with the booking, not necessarily the style. I'm not saying Raw would have gotten none of those guys. I'm just disappointed that SmackDown didn't really get anyone who has Raw potential, who's an up and comer, someone we could look forward to rising in the ranks, like Kevin Owens. Like I want to see someone headline SmackDown that's new, but instead we have really the top guys are Cena, Orton, who are two well-established guys. Dean Ambrose, who is established, but he could still a lot of room for improvement, as we all know, and hopefully a heel turn will be in his future. But and then we have Bray Wyatt and AJ Styles. So it's like I'm not able to see anyone like rise in the ranks. There's no
but
no, you know what I mean?
You're stuck with like Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio and guys like that who are solid wrestlers, and there's nothing to be said against them for their in-ring talent, but like there is nothing to see with them. You know, they are nothing more than placeholders for other guys at this point. I mean, Baron Corbin, there could be a rise there, but I'm not really a big Baron Corbin guy. Like, I like him all right, but I certainly don't want to see him versus Dolph Ziggler anymore. I know Jay is all over that on Twitter, and I don't blame him, because we do not want to see that match anymore. We already got that more than enough times. And of course, they're both drafted to SmackDown. So I see where you're coming from, Steven. I really think the big thing for SmackDown is going to be this cruiserweight division. If that is going to be...
Well, that's on Raw. That's on Raw.
So they're putting that on Raw now, in addition with everything else, which seems to be the majority of the women's division, too. See, that's disappointing for me. I see that cruiserweight division, I wasn't sure which brand it was going to. Now that really disappoints me even more, because I felt like that was what SmackDown had to make it feel like an alternative, would have been the cruiserweight division, especially with the roster that they ended up with, which isn't bad. I mean, I like that Cena and Orton are on SmackDown. I'm actually a huge fan of that, because to me, it gives them a lot of star power. But the rest of the roster doesn't back up what I want. You know what I'm saying? So I think Orton and Cena are good guys to have on that brand. But when you don't have a whole lot of other guys who they can put over on the brand as well, it kind of counteracts itself.
But look at it this way. Look at it this way, though. There's guys on SmackDown that, all right, you and Steven both say that are kind of already established. But I don't get that impression from guys like Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, or even AJ Styles. Well, not AJ Styles, because he has been established. But a guy like Dean Ambrose, for example, and a Bray Wyatt, I think they're really going to benefit on being on SmackDown now, because we didn't see them to their best potential on Raw. For months and months, those guys were just booked horribly on Raw. And now I think they're going to get the chance to stand out and get to a higher level, because they're going to be the faces on SmackDown. So yes, even though they are somewhat established, I don't think that they've reached that level of established like John Cena or Randy Orton, where you can say that, oh, the SmackDown doesn't have any guys on the uprise, because we haven't seen that breaking point for a guy like Dean Ambrose yet. We haven't seen that breaking point for a guy like Bray Wyatt yet. And I think them being drafted to SmackDown is going to accomplish just that. They're going to have new directions now.
We've seen that breaking point for Dean Ambrose already, hence the reason why he has a damn WWE championship.
No, I don't buy that. This is temporary. This is temporary. I'm talking about the long run, the future. What he's doing right now is temporary.
But you don't think that WWE looks at him as a top guy right now by simple virtue of the fact that he has a championship? Like, I can no longer look at Dean Ambrose as an up-and-comer. Whether I believe he's worthy of being at the top tier in WWE or not, that's beside the point. The fact is, WWE looks at him as if he is right there, because he has a WWE championship. He just beat Seth Rollins on Monday on SmackDown now.
It's a restart.
Thank God he beat Seth Rollins.
It's a restart button on him. That's how I look at it.
Says the guy with the Donald Trump hat on, so I don't trust anything you say.
But seriously, though, I just think this is refreshing for Ambrose's career. He definitely needed this. So yes, you can make the point that WWE looks at him as an already established guy, but I think that him moving to SmackDown is going to be a restart for him, and he's going to start fresh, and I think he's going to be better than what he was on Raw, to be quite honest with you.
It could work out well for him. I'm just saying it's not like we're going to get what Cinderella journey for Dean Ambrose.
That's over. They blew that load, right?
Top. Yeah, they passed that.
Well, they could do it as a heel.
They're not gonna.
That's not a Cinderella story.
As the WWE champion, then put him at the bottom of the damn list and have him rise back to the top. That wouldn't make any sense.
Well, see, I'm worried they will do that because when I see Cena and Orton on the same brand in a 2-hour show, I'm like, shit. I just don't. I don't want to see Cena versus Orton again. Okay.
No, we're not going to see that.
Yes, we will.
Those two guys are going to be there.
For a month, because he has Brock Lesnar.
Okay,
no, we're not going to see it. You want to know why? Because those two guys are there to put over talent. They're not going to be there to
okay, buddy.
You don't believe me?
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
I do think we will see that match.
What did Mark Henry say? I got a lot left in the tank. They both got a lot left in the tank.
Oh, yeah, man. They are not on the way. I mean, Cena is winding down. But he's winding down as in he might be done in 5 to 10 years.
But I'm not saying
he's winding down from fucking superhuman.
No, I'm not saying
to regular people level. So
I'm not saying they're gonna be demoted from the main event. Of course, they still have it. What I'm saying is they're not gonna feud with each other anymore. I think that's done with.
On a 2-hour show, how I say this like Raw wasn't used to be 2 hours, but like compared to Raw, it feels so short. I just can't imagine that on a 2-hour show with only 4 or 5 main eventers, we're not going to get Cena versus Orton. Like, of course we are.
It will happen again. That's disappointing. So that's obviously the negative aspect of Cena and Orton being on the same show. But why I do like it is because of the fact that SmackDown they do need that star power. They do need those big
They
names.
do, but I feel like Cena would have been enough. I think with both of them, there's such an overwhelming presence now.
See, but
it's been long overdue for SmackDown, though, to be stacked with star power, so I like this. I like this a lot.
I would trade Randy Orton back to Raw for, like, Kevin Owens and
definitely,
one other guy. You know what I mean?
I think that would have been better.
I was so disappointed with Kevin Owens. Like, seriously, and the fact that he was drafted late, I wanted Kevin Owens to go to SmackDown since I don't know when.
Me too, because Kevin Owens makes me want to watch SmackDown more. Hell, he makes me want to watch wrestling more. Kevin Owens is a big difference maker, so I think him being on Raw makes him feel like one of many on Raw, when instead on SmackDown he really could have stuck out. He's going to stick out no matter where he goes. But Raw, he won't stick out as much because there's already a lot of stacked up talent there. Now,
and 3 hours, and the 3 hours.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, you look at Finn Balor, I mean, it would have been nice to put him on SmackDown. He could have been the rising star on SmackDown. That's what that could have been.
And I'm afraid I'm afraid that Raw is going to get some mojo too. I mean,
no, please no. Give us
too much on one show.
Yeah, give us something fresh on SmackDown, seriously, because I was disappointed with Finn Balor going to Raw too. I was like, oh great, are they going to ruin Finn Balor on Raw? That's my immediate reaction because I want to see this guy on SmackDown.
What's to make you think he can't be ruined on SmackDown?
I don't know,
same company.
So guys, Braun Strowman is officially done. He just got drafted to Raw, which means what the fuck is he going to do?
Oh, we forgot the club is also separated. Gallows and Anderson are on Raw.
I think maybe they might be going with Finn Balor.
I think they are going to go with Finn Balor. I think that's what the plan. I think that could be really cool too.
Well, then there you go. That solves the Finn Balor issue. But never mind.
I also look at the lack of women and tag teams on SmackDown. Now, I know that this draft is continuing on, and I haven't seen all of who's going where. But the main draft itself, just the fact that you had American Alpha on SmackDown, that's really exciting. But, when you think that a lot of these other teams are on Raw, you're like, wait, New Day, Enzo, and Cass, all of them are on Raw, and it's like, it just feels very divided. And the same can be said for the women. Becky, great talent. Natalya's great too, but they're both on SmackDown, and then you have Charlotte and Sasha on Raw. It just feels
what I want to know is
very unbalanced in some
what
ways.
I want to know is why the hell did they even have to split up the women? Because they don't even have that strong of a women's division to begin with to split them up into 2 different shows. So when they started drafting women, I'm like, oh great, we're gonna get 2 titles again for the women's division. Like, What was the whole point of a few months ago at WrestleMania revealing that one women's championship that they put so much
I don't
focus
think we're
on?
necessarily going to get to. I think.
So then, what the hell's the point of having two different rosters? You know what I mean?
They did it. They used to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Eva Marie is another NXT pick. What a waste. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Wait, that wasn't a joke.
NXT?
I don't know. I believe she does. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. What was I saying?
I just think that they should have had one women's division drafted entirely to one show, pretty much like they have with the cruiserweight division. Because,
yeah, I think that too, but I don't
know where all the picks are going because it's only on one show. But I agree with you because that makes each show have its own special piece. You know, Raw has the women's division and SmackDown has the cruiserweight division. There's a reason to watch now both shows. Actually, I will say the cruiserweight division being on Raw kind of does make more sense since it's 3 hours, but I think it fits better on SmackDown because it makes, like Steven said earlier, it's how I feel too. SmackDown should be an alternative to Raw, and it's
the underdog.
It's way more alternative if you have cruiserweights on there. It's kind of like the X division of TNA. You know, it's something that is not what you see on the main, you know, the flagship brand. It's something that
I think cruiserweights in general is a huge mistake. I think to bring that genie back out, you can't. Not since 2006 can you bring that back, because once Rey Mysterio won the World Heavyweight title, I no longer believe that there's any division between cruiserweights.
And there really isn't, because now there's been several guys who weren't heavyweights that have won the title, and that stems back to Daniel Bryan and CM Punk even as well. I mean, but the thing is, though, their world title wins were amazing. So I'm not going to... There's a pro and a con to that. Like, it's great that those guys won world titles. I mean, but then again, I guess you could go back to even before 2006. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit won world titles, too, and they were not heavyweights either.
That's true, but it's not the fact that they weren't heavyweights. It's just the fact that once... I think Rey Mysterio, Daniel Bryan, and CM Punk were a lot smaller. I don't even know if this is true biologically or physically, but my perception of them is that they were a lot smaller than Eddie and Benoit, and they were the kinds of guys who would never win the world title if it weren't for someone like Rey Mysterio breaking that barrier.
Well, and I do think that if it wasn't for the fact that there were two world titles, I don't think Benoit and Guerrero may have won either. And I mean, they kind of got fortunate as well. It was kind of like good place, good timing, but they really weren't much bigger. Maybe more muscular, but definitely no bigger in terms of height. In fact, CM Punk, I'm pretty sure, is the tallest of that group that we're discussing. But muscular wise, Benoit and Guerrero were bigger, but that's also because they were juiced up too. Yeah, to be fair.
I'm wondering what kind of effect this new cruiserweight division in WWE is going to have on someone like a Finn Bálor, because I would look at him, and maybe I'm in the minority here when I say that I look at Finn Bálor and that could possibly be a world champion. Now, the thing is, what would be the difference between, like how would he get there now with the Cruiserweight Championship, and why would anyone logically stay in the Cruiserweight
That's
division
exactly
if they
why
look at
I
Finn
think
Bálor
the idea
and
sucks.
say, well, shit, he's going for the world title, why can't I?
That's why I think the division sucks.
But who's to say they're going to put those kind of guys that are already on the uprise on the cruiserweight division?
But the logic makes no sense.
The stipulation of the cruiserweight division, Finn Bálor would fit into what WWE's definition of a cruiserweight is. Mm-hmm. So once again, like, what would be the difference? Like, how would he break out of that mold if that's what WWE wanted from him?
I have
some muscle mass.
So much to say about this cruiserweight shit.
Put on some muscle mass, Finn. That's all I can say.
For the exact reason,
I don't know if you want to send that message. All of this shit going around.
The exact reason that Jay just said. There's so much to say about this cruiserweight shit, because it's like, so say Finn Bálor goes for the world title instead of the cruiserweight title. What does that say about all the cruiserweights going for the cruiserweight title? Does that say they're all not as good? Because, like, what? Is it going to be Neville? Okay, so he's just not as good. Like, it just... You either... When it comes to cruiserweight division, you either have to enforce a kayfabe heavyweight division, you either gotta say there are some light heavyweights or cruiserweights who just aren't as good as heavyweights because of their size, not because of their talent. And this is something that used to be enforced and understood, but ever since they blurred that line, we have one division now, which is just you're a wrestler and you compete for the world title. And now if you're in the cruiserweight division, what the fuck is that? Like, where does that fit in? I mean, TNA kind of they bypassed this with their X Division stuff, which wasn't a cruiserweight title, but it was sort of like cleverly disguised.
Yeah, and I think Steven, a lot of what made the X Division title cool was that it had a lot to do with being high flying and being something else, like not just weighing less, because like guys like Samoa Joe were X Division champions.
Yeah, it was more like a style title, right?
Yeah. It was like if you could do flips, you could win the X Division title. You know, it really, there wasn't as much of a definition to it, but it actually was better that the lines were a little more blurred, because it made it feel like anybody could go for that title, but you had to be able to keep up with their pace. So if you were like a Kevin Nash, you weren't going to go for the X Division title because you're a heavyweight, you're a big guy, you're a brawler, you know, or Roman Reigns if he was in that.
He has trouble walking, much less.
Yeah, I mean, he has trouble going down the street without tearing his freaking legs in half. But that's beyond the point. But, you know, like a Roman Reigns, though, it was like a good current example of a guy who like would never go for that title. But someone like Seth Rollins could compete for the world title or the X Division title. And that's where those lines are blurred with a cruiserweight championship. I really think it's a specialty that works so well. But I think that the point that you're making, Steven, is very valid, especially after a lot of these lighter guys have actually won the world title. And I don't necessarily think it's a measurement of them not being as good, but it's like, why can't the question of why can't they compete for the world title? You can't answer that clearly, because like it's like, well how come Daniel Bryan is a former world champion, but now Finn Balor can't win the world title? I mean, that makes no sense. You know, it just doesn't. Like Shinsuke Nakamura can't win the world title.
I expect Finn Balor to not be in the cruiserweight division, but then the question is, well, why the fuck not? Why is Kalisto there? Because, you know, Kalisto... Oh, I think Kalisto's on SmackDown. Sin Cara, whoever the fuck is on Raw...
Right.
Will be in that division. So it's like, so what? Do we just... Is this just like a lesser tiers for the little guys that are so bad that they can't... Like, I don't know. I think we've said all that needs to be said on that. It's just, to me, it doesn't belong in the modern era. If you're going to have a cruiserweight division, you have to have a strict logic about size, which they don't enforce.
Right.
The current
or
physics...
Just have its own league for it or something.
Yeah, the current physics of WWE is that size isn't all that important. And that's like a little bubble that exists in the universe where the physics is just different. And we all accept that. But back in the day, it was different, where we knew that the size was more enforced. You know, a big guy would just beat a small guy, like Ryback used to say. Like a good big guy will beat a good small guy any day, because size really mattered back then, but now it doesn't. So
yeah, and the reason why we're having a conversation like this is because the wrestling industry has changed so much, where that's the hot thing. And, you know, you see a guy like Finn Balor, and that's why we're having this discussion right now, because people look at him and say, well, yeah, technically he qualifies as a cruiserweight, but this guy is so amazing, we don't want to restrict him specifically to that area of the show. We want to make sure that he doesn't have a ceiling to his success. The sky's the limit. And it's changed so much that even with the Cruiserweight Classic, WWE has had to redefine what a cruiserweight is. I think the limit used to be like 220, 225, somewhere around there. Now it's 205, because the wrestler, the prototypical wrestler, he's gotten smaller throughout the generations, and now we're at this point where we're questioning what is a cruiserweight. Could it even work in the year 2016? Because the wrestling industry has changed so much in what fans are interested in, or at least, you know, fans that we would come into contact with on a daily basis. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how WWE plays off this whole cruiserweight thing. What other angles do we have to explore with this draft tonight? We haven't had the opportunity to talk about it on the show. The system that WWE has set up, where you have a commissioner and you also have a general manager. Over on Monday Night Raw, Stephanie is the commissioner, Mick Foley is the general manager. SmackDown, Shane is the commissioner, while Daniel Bryan is the general manager.
Can I just say, why the hell did they make Mick Foley the Raw general manager. To me,
What's
that
wrong
was
with
so
that, dude?
underwhelming.
Mick Foley's awesome.
No, to me, that was underwhelming. I know he's awesome, but I just don't think he fits with today's day and age of being involved with anything WWE. And
What are you
I think
talking
it's
about?
temporary.
He's great. Every time he comes up, he does a great segment.
But that's because you see him once in a while. You don't see him on a weekly basis.
I don't see any reason why seeing him on a weekly basis is going to do anything.
I just think this is.
That.
But all right, so can you answer this for me? Do you really think Mick Foley is going to be there for the long run, permanently as the GM?
I mean, what do you mean?
I'm not buying that.
You explain your position. You're the one that's like.
Yeah, dude. What do you even mean permanently? Like what? A year? I mean, I think he'll be around for a year or two. I mean, why?
No, I doubt
why
it.
not? What is he doing otherwise?
I doubt it. I think this is temporary. I just think that Mick Foley being there, something's not right with that. It just felt
really strange, dude.
Yeah, it felt underwhelming to me. Whereas with SmackDown, Daniel Bryan being the GM there makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
Really, I feel like I could see Mick Foley showing up way longer than I could see Daniel Bryan showing up. Daniel Bryan is not gonna be a permanent thing because. Do you think Daniel Bryan wants to do this? I honestly do not believe he does.
I think he does.
I don't think so.
I think it's great for everybody.
I think he's happy to do it, but I think it will wear on him because he's gonna be flying out every week to not wrestle. I mean, he did not get in this business to be a general manager. Do you think he wants to be this close to that temptation? I think it's gonna fuck him up after a while, but
it's a good trade-off. You know what I mean? Like for the fans, for the WWE.
I'm not saying it's not awesome. I like seeing Daniel Bryan.
Steven is looking at it from Daniel Bryan's perspective, not from the. Because
who's to say Bryan doesn't like it either?
Of course, we love it, but
I mean, I'm not saying he hates it. I'm just saying he is a wrestler. He is not he's not someone like The Miz. Who is into this for the show business aspect. I'm not saying The Miz isn't a wrestler too, but clearly someone like The Miz could transition from GM to commentator to manager, whatever you want The Miz to be. He could be that. Daniel Bryan is a wrestler. He did not get in this business to talk, and he can't wrestle, and you're putting him close to a wrestling ring every week for the next foreseeable future. I just think that's gonna get to him, and I don't think he's gonna want to do it for long. And he's also denied this role before. I mean, they've offered him roles similar to this, and he said no, thank you. So,
but the interesting thing about having GMs and commissioners, I wonder if we're going to even see the commissioners, because I think that's why they have the GMs, and I don't think we're going to see Shane McMahon every week. I don't think we're going to see Stephanie every week. So if it's just going to be Foley and Bryan on a weekly basis, I think Bryan wins in that aspect, because I'd much rather see Daniel Bryan every week than I would want to see Mick Foley.
I don't know, man.
I don't want to see either one of them every week.
Why not?
I want a general manager in the style of William Regal, in a sense that you only come out to when an authority is needed, and not the big A authority, lowercase a authority. When you need somebody to lay down the law, add some perspective to some, confusing times and things like that, and you do your business, and then boom, you're on your way. Now, that's probably too much to expect when it comes to Daniel Bryan, because there's a reason why they put him in that position. But
did you see Cesaro's mini shoot on the network?
When he talked about how he wanted to be on SmackDown,
and then I
said it should be about the talent and not the drama.
And they asked him how is Stephanie and Mick Foley supposed to coexist, and he said the problem is that you're asking me this type of question. That is such a shoot. There's no way he was scripted to say that. Anyway, the commissioner thing, it's okay. I don't mind these partnerships between the two people, but it does add sort of so many layers to this authority thing. It's like, okay, so at the bottom is the GM, above that is the commissioner, above that is Vince, and above the commissioner is Triple H, presumably. Above Triple H is Vince, and above Vince is the board of directors. Like, how many layers of bureaucracy do we have to have? I'm in it to get rid of bureaucracy. That's why I have this hat on. So it's like, but as far as
they replace it with a dictatorship. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey man, you don't let the media convince you of something that isn't true. Donald Trump is gonna fight for this country's democracy. Anyway, what was I saying before you interrupted me with some nonsense?
Talking about bureaucracy.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I don't mind Mick Foley and Daniel Bryan. They're good picks. I agree. I kind of agree with Cesaro. I do think that this GM shit needs to. We gotta tone it down with this authority figure stuff. But I am glad that they're both baby faces. That's good.
And on the draft,
and I like the fact that they're both baby faces as well, because as much as we've accepted it throughout the years, you have to admit it's fucking weird for an authority figure to go out there and constantly talk about how they don't care what the fans want and to seem as if they're like punishing the fans. It's good for TV, but when you're looking at
I think that's how they really feel sometimes. I think that's probably the problem.
Hell, if you want a heel authority figure, go for something like a Dario Cueto. Go for that. Like I like that, because at the end of the day, what he wants to do, he wants to make money. He's going to have some fun along the way, punishing the people that he doesn't like. But at the end of the day, he's going to do what is best from a business perspective.
Well, that sounds awfully like a catchphrase that we're familiar with.
No, and I was just about to say that, not the quote-unquote what's best for business, because that's all nothing but PR marketing bullshit from the character perspective, like legitimately from the side of Dario Cueto. But I tend to agree with Cesaro as well. I want to see WWE move away from the whole so much focus on the authority figures and things like that, and I'm glad that we have that team over on SmackDown. That's going to be a good start in that regard. I'm just hoping that with Mick Foley and Stephanie, that partnership wasn't created specifically for the purpose of friction, where it's like, oh, we're going to get some good stuff of heel.
I think it will. I think we're going to
GM.
see. I think we're going to see Stephanie nearly every week, and I don't think we're going to see Shane nearly every week.
I'm not going to watch Raw. If I see Stephanie start popping up every week, I can tell you right now, Raw is going to be the show I'm DVRing.
I don't see why we
I'm
wouldn't.
sick of her. I'm sick of her, especially tonight. She was so annoying tonight as well. During the entire draft, just bickering and bickering and bickering. Like Shane and Daniel Bryan were getting straight down to business. Hell, even Foley was getting straight down to business. Not bullshitting around, just getting to the picks. And Stephanie's like, oh, are you scared? All right, like, I don't need to hear that. It sounds so stupid.
That very first pick where Mick Foley went to speak and Stephanie jumped over him, I'm fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah, seriously.
Do not want.
I don't want to hear her on Raw every single week. You know what? I might not even give them a chance. I might just go ahead and start DVRing Raw every single week.
Well, we got to see how it's like first. But
it's going to be the same thing that we've been seeing. It's going to be a heel authority versus a face authority on Raw. Come on.
We got to check. I would say at the very least, give both shows a chance.
I don't know. I feel like Raw is still the exact same thing. And I know I'm saying that because that's the only show I watch, but I really feel like SmackDown is going to stand out here.
I don't even know if it will, but I'm going to give both of them a chance. I hope that we see a bit different things from both of them. Even if it's just aesthetic, I want aesthetic changes. I'm sick of the theme songs. I'm sick of the color schemes. I'm sick of the Titantrons.
There's too much focus on this other side stuff that, to me, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. Like, there's people that...
What are you talking about?
Well, there's people that really want, like, the color of the ropes to change and referee shirts to change. Like, is that really important?
To me, that's important.
Why?
Because it sets the tone for the product.
But the product itself is what matters.
A few weeks ago, you were talking about how you didn't want 2 world championships, and back then I said that it was very important that they show a dividing line between SmackDown and Raw to give them the feel that they are 2 separate companies. That's the only way that 2 world championships would work, and I do want to see changes. I don't want to have like a top-down WWE directive where it's like, okay, you have to do things this way, you have to do things that way. I want the separate creative teams, production teams to, do whatever it is possible to create a new identity for their brand. And if that calls for changing the colors of the ropes, the color schemes, The referee shirts, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I want a distinct difference between Raw and SmackDown, and the great deal of that has to do with the content, the quality of the shows, and how they utilize the rosters. But it also has to do with like the look and feel of the show. That is important.
All right, but how does that determine the overall quality of both shows?
Well, nobody's saying that it does. We just want that.
I mean, all right, fine. To me, that's not a big deal, though. But can we answer this question? What's going to happen with the triple threat match, and how are we going to get 2 titles now? Because if Ambrose is the WWE champion and he's on SmackDown, and Seth Rollins is on Raw, and Roman Reigns is on Raw, then how?
What's there to answer?
How are we going to get the World Heavyweight Championship? Because we know it's
going to bring the World Championship.
They're going to bring it in, and someone will win it at SummerSlam. It's going to be determined at SummerSlam. I'm almost positive.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm hoping Dean Ambrose retains, because I don't want this shitty. I don't want it to be a shitty title reign. I want some defenses getting in there before.
He has a heel to climb. Then
he does have a heel to climb. Oh, I'm glad he beat Rollins tonight. I'm glad for that.
Did you guys like that they drafted part-time guys like Brock Lesnar and Chris Jericho?
I hate that they. Well,
yeah, I hated it too.
Jericho
I was like,
is not part-time.
Well, Jericho isn't part-time.
Well, he was. I don't know. I guess now he isn't again.
He's there like every week.
But I mean, when he leaves.
A week recently, but
I mean, when he leaves for a while.
We don't know how long he's going to be there.
Well, he said he's going to be around for a while this time. So.
All right, we'll see. But I just felt like they wasted a complete waste of. It was a complete waste of time when they drafted Brock Lesnar, like at the start of the show.
I did think that was stupid because, first of all, if Brock Lesnar is draftable, why wasn't he the first pick?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I get it. He's a part timer, so maybe that's why. But he should have been. Yeah. He should have been one of the first 2 picks. Anyway, I do think it limits Brock Lesnar because there's only so many opponents for Lesnar, and if he's stuck on Raw, then what's going to happen?
And they could have done something cool, like turn this into an angle with a guy like Brock Lesnar, where he fights against the system and he gets to say what he wants to do, and not so much of WWE drafting him. But hey,
I mean, we've had enough of Brock Lesnar doing what he wants to do. We see where that goes. Him.
Hey, we don't know anything about that. It could just be an inhaler. That's what I heard.
An inhaler?
I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be it.
I heard it could be an inhaler.
This is a perfect time to do Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
I heard it was aliens.
By the way,
did like a probe, and they put something.
By the way, Dana White has endorsed Donald Trump, so that's good.
That's a shame.
I just think the funny part is now we've wanted to see Brock versus Roman again, so much. And now that match would just be so strange with them both having issues.
Only pee on a pole match.
Yeah, apparently. But, I think Brock Lesnar being drafted a little later is nice. I also think it's nice that Cena and Orton were drafted a little later. It shows that WWE wants to invest in its future, not only through kayfabe, but really, they really do. I think having Rollins and Ambrose as their first 2 picks, I think that means a lot. I really do. I think that just shows that they see these guys as the current and forward thinking that WWE has, and that's great.
All right, anything more to say, guys?
I feel very, very reluctant about this brand split, and I always have. When you guys would mention, bring back the brand split, I would say, I don't know about that. And I was kind of excited for it because I just want to see something different, and it might still be very good, but I'm not confident that this talent pool is as deep as everyone seems to think it is. I mean, with NXT, yes, but they did not call up everyone from NXT, and from the looks of it, those 6 NXT picks were mostly bullshit. I saw Mojo Rawley got called up on the network. I think Eva Marie was one. American Alpha.
Do we even know if Samoa Joe has been called up yet?
I don't think so. I think they're probably going to wait until after he finishes things with the NXT title, which is okay.
If
fine.
He would have been called up, I would hope that they would do it on Monday Night Raw and not on the fucking network. Or I keep calling it Raw. I'm not used to doing shows after, watching SmackDown.
And it looks just like Raw, which is another reason why they got to change this.
Oh wait, you know who else I was disappointed to not see drafted tonight? Bayley.
Oh, that's a good point. But
They really missed out on an opportunity.
That is another thing. What you said about the divas and the tag teams, I think that's a problem.
Wait, divas? What's that?
Okay, the women and the tag teams. Why are we not allowed to call them divas, but we can call the wrestlers superstars?
Because they're female superstars.
Well, now everyone's a superstar, right?
Why?
Yes.
All right, whatever. So yeah, it is a problem to separate those rosters. There's not that many women on the roster.
Yeah.
You're a superstar, and you're a superstar. Everybody's a superstar. We got the Oprah Winfrey syndrome up in here.
Yeah. I don't know how long this is going to last. I will say that. I am afraid that this is another USA imposed thing that will fuck them over in the long run. Just like the third hour of Raw. I mean, this is imposed from... this isn't a creative thing. This is something that was imposed from an economic deal that they made with USA. So this is if anything, they're doing this because they have to. So that's important. And I don't like it when these decisions are made from the top down, so to speak, from just to satisfy this particular business arrangement. Like I said, it could still be good. It could still be good. We could get 2 great shows or 1 great show and 1 not so great. It could still be that way. But I remember the dying days of the. Let me say one more thing. I remember the dying days of the brand split last time, and it wasn't very good TV for either show.
No, it wasn't.
Can I just say this? If we get 1 great show, then that means we're better off than what we were before.
That is true. I'm not going to disagree with that. Like I said, if we get 1 great show, I'm happy with that. So.
I am too, because the thing is, the 3 hours and 2 hours, it's a weird dynamic. A lot of people like to have everything in kind of neat rows. Like it's either both shows are 3 hours or both shows are 2 hours. But I actually kind of like that it's a little.
Both, 2.
I'm gonna also second that with a 2 and 2. Yeah, no way in hell would I want 3 hours 2 nights in a row every week. After 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours of pay-per-view, sometimes 4 hours or 7 hours when it comes to WrestleMania.
Sometimes 13.
Yeah, it's an all-day event apparently. But
Lord have mercy.
Oh, it's terrible, man. I don't know how you stood that entire show this year. But honestly, it is weird to have 3 hours, 2 hours. But I kind of like it in a way because it makes it feel like, okay, 3 hours on the flagship. This is the big show with, no, not the damn giant. The big show of the week. And then you have the 2 hours of SmackDown where it's like an alternative. And that's where it still can kind of feel like an alternative, even if it is basically Raw, but 2 hours and on a different night. But yeah, I think something Steven mentioned earlier, I'd like a different stage. I'd like a different feel to SmackDown. Kind of like how it used to be. I'm not saying bring the fist back. I'm just saying, although that would be cool. I'm just saying, I'd like it to feel different. I mean, the pay-per-views that are specific to brands, I think will do something for it. But other than that, the stages being the same, basically it's just a different color. I'd like to see things be completely different on each show. And I don't know, I'm not going to try to jump the gun and say that won't be what they'll do, but I don't get the impression that that's their plan. I think this draft was.
I did
really...
hear from someone that the production changes, we're going to start seeing them in effect next week.
Oh, all right, that's
the commentary said that, I think.
That's great then. I really think that's an important element. I mean, it's small, but it's like a nuance. It's something that matters. If you can tell the difference between each show, it makes it say, hey, you know what? I like this about Raw. I like this about SmackDown. Whether it's the presentation, the style, maybe even the commentary team. Things as simple as that can be so vital to making a show more worth watching than another. And it's not just the in-ring action or the wrestlers that are on it. So I really hope that they do make each show feel like its own entity. Again, to say that they aren't or they're not going to would be kind of jumping the gun anyway. And I think we're doing a lot of that, but it's hard not to. When you're a longtime fan, you've been watching this product for a while, you're used to this status quo stuff where everything feels kind of the same, the wheels are in motion, but the car ain't going anywhere. It's like you're going to tend to just jump to conclusions and say, God, I hope this isn't going to be the same as it was before, because this whole thing, it feels like the refreshing element is there, and it's like, oh, this could be an era where things get better, but you do get worried. Are they just reverting to the past? Are we just going to see what we saw those last few years of the brand split, which, as Steven said, not good TV. I couldn't agree more. It really... that went downhill really fast. And actually, at the time when the brand split ended, I was very happy that it was over, because
I was so happy, man.
It was
so
I don't know
terrible.
if that can be an accurate judge, of what we're in store for, because by the time the brand split ended, WWE had long before that decided, you know what, we don't give a damn about the brand split anymore. So,
yeah, bragging rights was like their last little effort with it, and that was
if
not good.
You can call bragging rights effort.
See, the thing that makes me more hopeful this time is just because SmackDown's live, and because they have NXT to beef up their roster. But other than that, I think there is a huge danger that we will see the same problems that we saw during the end. And it could be, it wasn't all bad. A lot of the brand split was great from 2002, was it, or 2004? I don't remember when it started. Up until like 2007, it was a very good. It was
2008 was good too.
Well, the summer was. Wait, was that? No, that was 2009. I remember 2008 being terrible, but actually,
Edge and Taker.
That stuff was pretty solid, yeah.
Yeah.
08 was still decent, and then
Yeah.
09 was only good in the summer because of Punk and Hardy, obviously, and then everything after that was that.
I would say the last decent year was 09, but definitely the last good year was 2008.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least, we have a few more years until WWE stops giving a fuck. So.
Yeah, we have like 4 years. We.
Let's not mention that the rosters aren't as deep as they were back then, but we'll work on it.
Well, they already messed up. Orton is on SmackDown and he's facing Brock Lesnar, who's on Raw. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. We know that's a different situation there because one of them is part-time. But hey, if they're gonna split up the brands, might as well do it right away. But we're already gonna get an inter-promotional match between Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but I think the big four are those pay-per-views where you're supposed to see that.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
Not
if there's
for a
any...
while, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, though, because, like, every big four pay-per-view always having inter-promotional matches is like, okay, it's like the brand split just stops feeling so much like a split if you know every 3-4
and it
months
just started.
you're going to see those matches. Yeah, exactly. So it's like we're still
pass on
fresh
this
off.
one, but, they get a pass for Orton and
yeah, because that was already kind of announced. Yeah.
Let's just hope that next week they already start the separation.
I hope they do. I hope they do. Yeah, because the expectations are high. You're going back in time. Basically, they're turning the clock backwards and now trying to go forward. So they're taking a huge step backwards in hopes to take an even bigger leap forward with this draft and brand split. And I think it can be really cool. It can work out so damn well. But because we've seen it in action, you've seen how good the brand split can be, and you've seen how bad it can be. It's almost like the entire story has been played out in front of you already. Mm-hmm. You went away from it for a few years, and now you're right back to it. So you know how good it can be, you know how bad it can be, and that's why, like myself, I kind of go into it cautiously optimistic. There's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. And again, looking at multiple world titles that can demean the value of what it means to be world champion. We talked about the cruiserweights and how that could demean them as individual competitors. The women's division that's, you're hoping is trying to get on the right track to an evolution, it very well may go 10 steps backwards because of this draft, because you're splitting up a division that isn't that strong to begin with. You're spreading it thin. So there can be a lot of negativity that comes from it, but there can be a lot of positivity two shows to watch. I can care about Monday and Tuesday now instead of only caring about Monday, or not even not even watching the second show. I hadn't watched SmackDown in a couple of years up until tonight, and it was refreshing to watch SmackDown, and it was a good show. I enjoyed it a lot.
You know, I'm not trying to throw any shade or anything like that. You know, this was a nice show, but, you know, the draft that Charlie and I did, if you guys haven't checked it out, it's on PWFempire.com and YouTube.com/PWF Empire. Please go ahead and check that out. We have
I will
such
say
a wonderful time
that
on
was
show.
that was a better draft. I will say the rosters that you guys ended up with, I much preferred.
Well, see, the thing is, we didn't have to, like, subscribe to the WWE bullshit, you know. It's WWE, of course. They created it. They live in that universe, so of course they had to. But yeah, we didn't. We had the opportunity to actually have fun and, you know, craft these rosters that we wanted to see as best as we possibly could. So make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. And towards the end of the show, we had some really great moments. I shared this story about Charlie, WrestleMania weekend. Some hilarious stuff happened. Yeah, so if you guys haven't checked that out, please go ahead and do so. Anything more to say before we head off air?
Congratulations to Donald J. Trump for winning the Republican nomination.
Next.
A true grassroots movement akin to Daniel Bryan's rise to the main event at WrestleMania.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Comparing that orange sumbitch to Daniel Bryan.
Hey, watch your mouth, man. That is your next president.
What would be funny is if Steven is faking all of this and he's just doing it as an act.
That's okay.
Bro. Exactly.
I'll give him a high five if it's an act.
Just a word.
Man, Donald Trump, the biggest troll of all time, man. But,
that is something.
And I just want to say, for anybody, because I remember I had one person, they like went off on me when I, or tried to at least, when I said something about Donald Trump before. I hate everybody. Okay, I hate them all. I fucking hate the two-party system in the United States of America.
Just say you hate politics. Just say it. It's okay.
Well, yeah, in the current state that it's in.
You know who else hates politics? Donald Trump hates politics.
You know what? A perfect time to end the show right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Cass and I will be doing our podcast, I believe, on Thursday, a little earlier than usual because I don't have to fake and act like I'm watching SmackDown now.
Yeah, because it matters.
The show after SmackDown, I never fucking watch SmackDown. I just, you know, he does, so I wait until after he gets done watching.
You're basically just waiting for him to be done with his show.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll be talking about more about the draft, and we'll also be talking about Battleground, doing a preview of that show, and we'll get more into the draft because Cass and we're the big NXT fans, and we'll be talking about those NXT picks and how it affects that brand versus what it does for Raw and SmackDown, all that good stuff. So make sure you guys are tuned, and we'll be taking your calls. So make sure you tune into that. Until then, see you later. Peace.